everybody. Welcome to our latest session here. We are going to be talking about drawing storyboards faster. I'm your host here, Chad. And I'm about to bring up here our special guest here, Steve.
Hello.
Hey, Steve, how are you doing today?
Pretty good, Chad. Pretty good. How you doing?
Awesome. I'm doing good. Today we got you here. We're going to be talking about how to be more efficient and draw your storyboards faster with a nice, awesome demo here. Um, Steve here is one of our mentors from our mentorship program. And you know what? I'm just going to let you introduce yourself. Why don't you tell us about yourself, man?
All right. So, hi guys. Hi everyone. Welcome. My name is Steve Lee. I've been a storyboard artist, director, and animator for over 30 years in the business. I worked for Lucas, Disney, DreamWorks, Sony, Microsoft. I've done many things, and I worked in traditional, CG, um, TV, movies, games. So I've done my share of the business, and storyboarding has been one of the most you know uh, better part of my career. I love storyboarding because storyboarding for me is to is to become someone that takes charge of the whole layout and composition. So welcome and yeah, Chad. So should I go ahead and do anything else?
Let's go ahead and jump in and get started. Let me pull us up here.
Okay.
So yeah,
All right. All right. So what I want to show you today, guys, is drawing efficiently in storyboarding. Now, every storyboard artist have their own technique, right? And all you potential storyboard artists who are thinking about a career in it, right? You're probably thinking, I can do this, right? And you probably can, right? Everyone can, right? As long as you have a good storytelling type of creative thinking, right? Good mindset of it. And of course, you got to have some drawing skills, all right? You got to get some drawing skills to get yourself into the business, right? Because, the first thing you want to do is make sure that when they see your work, right, you excite the potential employer, right? Now, when you storyboard, right, it's totally different than say concept art, right? Being a concept artist, because in storyboarding, right, you got to think about moving frames and screen direction and all that, right? And the one thing in the business, right, when you're on a project, right, especially like say a TV series, right, you have to move fast because the one thing is that there's a tight schedule when it comes to working in TV. Now, feature film maybe a little different, but still you need good, efficient type of presentation. But TV, right? I want to show you. I want to demonstrate to you guys about drawing fast, but being efficient about it, right? And not worry too much about details. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I am going to I'm going to be presenting this in Storyboard Pro. It's a very commonly used software that we use in industry. Okay, and we do use Photoshop in some parts of some studios, so smaller studios. I've worked in Photoshop in like more commercial and smaller studios, but these days Storyboard Pro for traditionally, right, 2D traditionally is what we use now, Storyboard Pro. And of course there's 3D, right, but we could talk about that next time, right? All right. So as artists, right, when we first start drawing, right, we always think about detail, right? You always think about, oh, I gotta draw this guy out, whatever, right? All the details and stuff with everything you think of, right? You want to add the shirt, the tie, maybe all that, right? Now I want to put a stop to that right now, right? Because when you are doing storyboards, right, here's the main thing you think about. You want to think about the composition, the layout, the staging, and the action, right? Now, there's several ways of being efficient in certain action, right? Like for action, everything, there's a lot more panels. For talking heads, as we call it, acting, right? Maybe less, right? A little bit easier to do. So what I'm going to do now, what I'm going to show you first is some acting sequences, right? Just simple acting type of movement, right? In an efficient way of doing it. And then after that, I'm going to show you guys how to draw fast for action sequences, okay? So right now, let me go ahead and present and do a little demo, okay? Now, I do use an onion skin here, right? I do use an onion skin on Storyboard Pro if you guys are all familiar with the software, right? But like I said, there's certain techniques that we do, right? So let me go ahead and do this really quick and give you an idea of what I'm doing, okay? So I'm gonna, before I do this, let me show you this real quick. Then you know what I'm trying to present, all right? Right. This is a thumbnail rough sketch from some of my early stuff I did for Star Wars Rebels, right? So this part right here, right? These are all very much thumbnails, early roughs. I'm going to do a quick demo on how I did this part right here in Storyboard Pro when we created it into an animatic. All right. So let me go ahead and do that. All right. So the first thing I would do, right? I'll keep it simple. All right. I don't want to do too much details. So the main thing is this: when you're drawing the characters, right? When you're drawing the characters, just keep it rough. You know, the main thing is about the, doing the right pose. Now, usually for my main character, I always try to draw the face in, just the face, right? So you know who the character is, right? So there's just a rough sketch. So it took me like, what, I don't know, 20 seconds, okay? Now, a lot of people will use the onion skin. And go to the next panel, and you'll see that, right? And then, of course, right, you're going to go ahead and use the onion skin. As a tool to help you get that right position. And you see how I'm drawing this, right? I'm not worried about too much of detail. I'm just worrying about the positioning and the acting, right? Okay. And then go to the next panel, right? And now I'm going to have them, because what's going on with this scene right here is that Ezra, the character in the Star Wars TV series, Star Wars Rebel, someone is telling him that he has to go into the ship to get the friends, get their comrades. And right now he's new at this and he's really scared. He doesn't want to do it, right? But he's gonna build up courage to get in there and help them and help rescue his friends, right? So right now he's contemplating, and he turns to her and says, "I'm scared, but I guess I have to do it, right?" So there's an anticipation. He stands up. And you see how I'm just doing this, right? I'm just getting the positions right. And there you go, right? Rough, easy. The movement is there, the acting is there, right? So that took me all about, I don't know, like what? I don't know, a couple minutes, few minutes, right? Just for me, just telling you guys what I just did, right? And up he goes. Now, this is a very simple way of boarding this out in movement, right? Now, before I go, let me show you this part. All right, so here's the action here, right? This is the rough boards. I just want to show you this part, the clean boards. This is the clean boards to the Star Wars Rebel TV series that I was the director on, right? And I did board this. I did board this as a director, right? Now being a director, like I said, it's a little bit more complicated because you're mostly in meetings, right? But as a storyboard artist, you get to draw more, right? So here's the clean one, right? Just show you guys this, all right? This is the rough one, all right? Now, so this is how I do it when it comes to simple type of acting movement. Now, I want to show you another way of doing it, right? This way is very efficient for me. I've seen this done from other board artists before, right? And I adapted it to myself, right? This is most about action. Action has a lot more panels, a lot more things going on, right? Now, if you trust yourself, your skill, the way you draw, right? And you have a good control of how you draw, right? I do recommend this way of doing it. Because I do it, especially in Storyboard Pro, all right? This is what's done in Storyboard Pro, how I do it, all right? So now let me go ahead, open a new panel for you guys. So what I'm going to show you guys now is a character who's running left to right. He makes a skid turn and hit for us, right? Maybe off. He goes left to right, and then he skids and comes in a perspective way from right to left. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to show you this way how I do it, right? So what I'm going to do first is this. I'm going to draw just a real quick rough of a background like this. I'm going to do this. I'm showing you a path, okay? How's my character going to come running through, okay? All right. So watch this. All right. So now this is an action sequence. Okay. Now I did do this action on a different episode, but I couldn't find the thumbnails for it. But I've done this position many times before. So now watch how I do this. All right. Now like I said, I'm going to do it pretty quick. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick drawing of the guy coming in. Right. So he's going to come running in. I'm keeping it simple now, right? Because this is the action sequence. What's great about Storyboard Pro and Photoshop, I guess, right, is that it's easy to, resize and erase and do all that. Uh-oh, wait a minute. Sorry, guys. I screwed up. Hold on. Let me fix this real quick. I didn't mean to do this because I was too busy talking, not thinking, putting on a different layer. There we go. Okay, hold on. Let me draw this back in. Okay. Put it right here. There we go. Okay. There. Now it's on the right layer. All right. All right. Okay, now back to what I was doing. All right. Draw. All right. All right. So this guy's running in. Okay, now watch this. I'm not going to use the onion skin for this because this is the way I do for action. All right. I'm going to draw on the same level. So I'm going to have the guy come running in. Right. I'm looking at his position. Right. I'm going to do it very fast here. He's going to come running in. All right. Okay. Now you're probably wondering, why is he drawing on the same level, right? Well, I have an answer to this madness. Okay, so let me show you what I'm trying to do.
While you're doing that, I also want to reiterate to everybody here. Just look at how little detail is in these drawings, right? For these first thumbnails, there's not a lot. And that's incredibly important for that speed and that efficiency, because you don't want to get hung up, especially early on in your storyboarding with these extraneous details, because when you have a director that comes in and you've spent 15, 20 minutes on a panel, and then they look at that panel and they're like, I want to change this.
Yeah.
Right. And then all of a sudden, bam, you got to go back and redo the entire thing. And for something that probably could have taken you 2 or 3 minutes to get the same information for that director.
Yeah, exactly what Chad said, because the main thing is, right, when you read the script, right, and it calls for a certain action, like this guy who's running across and making this move, right? You don't want to draw too detailed. You don't want to really. Wait until you do your rough first, second pass, get some approval, and then you could go back and clean it up to make it tighter, with more clothing and all that stuff, So what I'm doing right now, I'm just doing my action. That's what I'm doing. Let's see. It is kind of rough right now, but let's see. Hold on. Oops, wait a minute. I didn't look at my character carefully. Now, okay, here it goes. Okay, that's good enough. That's rough enough for now. All right. So that took me about, I don't know, a minute, couple minutes, right? So what I did was I did a possible 5 panels, right, for this action. Now, watch what I do next. So now, if you know Storyboard Pro, right? I'm gonna go ahead and divide this up. See, what I did was I saw someone do this before. Okay, what I'm doing right now, I'm splitting this panel into 5 continuous panels. Right mouse click, split panel at current frame. Nope, hold on. There you go. Split panel at current frame. Split panel at current frame. Split panel at current frame. Now you're wondering why didn't I use onion skin or go to different areas? No, I could do that too, but this way I just keep drawing, right? So I save some time when I do this, right? When I'm really moving, I just keep drawing like this on one panel, one, right? And then once I'm done, I start splitting it up really fast. And then now the next thing I do is this. Watch this. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and delete these. Go to the next one. Delete that. Go to this one. Delete that. Let's see. That's the number 2 now. So I delete this. Delete that. And then the last one. That. Okay. So there you go, right? So the next thing I do next, right? I'll go ahead and grab it. Now I have onion skin on, right? Now I can go ahead and position them how I want it, right? Now I'm gonna do some adjustment here. That's what's great about Storyboard Pro is that you could get that right height that you want, right? Go to the next one. All right. Go to this guy here. Bring him over here. Grab my last guy here. know what? I should have drawn this guy a little bit better because I was rushing through it. Hold on. Even me, right? Even I do a little mistake when I'm looking at my characters, right? So let me do this correctly. Let's see how that looks. That's better. That's better. Okay, so let me go ahead and expand this a little bit. Let's see. Where's my camera? Is that my camera? Camera. Yeah, there it goes. Okay. So there you have it, right? Very simple, very easy. Now I'm not. Now this calls for some camera work too, but I'm not going to do it right now. I'm just showing you how efficiently to draw this out. Right now, this took me, I think, what, Chad, 5 minutes to do this 5-panel action.
Yeah, that took like no time at all. I was looking at the clock the whole time as while you were doing this. It was like maybe 5 or 6 minutes to do that for 5 panels.
Yes. Now, of course, I already thumbnailed this out in my head, right? Well, I do have it drawn out before. I've done this before, so I was already prepared for it, right? So that's another thing too, right? All you potential board artists, right? It's always nice to, do some thumbnails, right? Before you start, like I always do, right? Always nice to do some thumbnails. It's so much easier because what it is that you set yourself up with some prep work, right? And then when you start doing it, right, you could easily draw it out like I just did, right? I don't have to think about it because I already know what I did. Now, Chad, before I go anywhere else, I want to show these potential board artists, right? One more thing, just to give them an idea how this came out, right?
Absolutely. And to that point, because you mentioned the thumbnails, yeah, the thumbnail part, like there's 2 types of thumbnails. There's the thumbnails that you send, which are kind of more rough boards. That's the one that goes to the director. Then there's the thumbnails that are just for yourself, right? Those are the ones that you use that ultimately lead you to be able to do what Steve did here, right? Because you've planned it out. And those things are super simple. Nobody else but you probably even knows how to read them, right? And
right
that allows you to have that. So yeah.
So this is the scene right here, right here. This is the sequence right here. He looks up, he walks off, and off he goes. That's the sequence. Okay, there you go. And just to end it for here, I'll show you this one too. The final piece of that sequence. So you guys see what I've done over the past on the very first demo I just did. Oh, wait a minute, I'm gonna cut the sound off. So this is the final CG version of it. Ezra is the guy on the left. And the scene that I did is coming up right here. Looks over. Well, there's a point in it because later on we had to add certain shots to it, but this is it right here. Looks up, he gets up and walks out. And that's it. There you go. Okay. So what do you say, Chad? Should I do any more, or are there any questions?
So yeah, let's jump into a few questions because I do see a couple here. If you guys have any other questions and stuff, feel free to toss them in here in the chat, and we'll try to get to as many of these questions. So the first one is actually from Mavuza Art. I'm going to bring this up here. And that is, how messy, rough does a project look when you submit it? How much do you need to have to refine from what you showed in these in the demo so far?
How messy, rough does a project look when you submit it? You mean like when I actually submit?
Yeah, if you're like, say you're submitting to a director to get feedback and all of that stuff, right? Hey, here's the sequence. I mean, I would. In some cases, a lot of the times, I would say what you currently have here is
pretty much there.
Fine. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. So the main thing is this right now for this one, right? The action sequence, right? I did it pretty quick. I didn't add any features or anything on it. So I think if I was going to submit something, right, I might have added the face and maybe some light clothing. That's it, right? That'll probably add like a minute to it, all right? For this one, right? Because it's an acting sequence, right? When it's just acting, right? And I think she'll always add the face because there's gonna be dialogue, right? Because there's talking in it, and they do want to see expressions and stuff, right? But keeping it simple. This is first pass. I'm talking about very first pass. Get it out, right? You read the script, you do your thumbnails, you do your first pass, right? Get all the little major points drawn out, show it to your director, right? And they'll understand that, right? They're not going to care if you're not going to add a button to his shirt or a patch or whatever, right? They want to make sure the performance is all there. Yeah, there you go.
Awesome. And then, so the next question that I got in here, let me grab it here. It's from Sketch. So you might have partially answered this or potentially answered this in your demo, but I might add to it. So what happens if your figures are overlapping in the action? Are you able to use that method when you were doing the action stuff? And I think in yours, you showed that you separated it out. And then because you did the individual panels, when they came across, they overlapped. But
Yes.
I want to expand to this a little bit. And that is, what about if you have multiple characters in the action? And here you're doing it with one.
Yes.
But what about if you have, say, two characters that are going to be overlapping with each other? How would you handle that?
That's, like I said before, if you're an artist that can trust your skills, right? I would for the action sequence, I would do the same thing too. What I do is, right, I'll sit there, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna thumbnail some fight sequences, right? If there's two characters overlapping me, okay, if they're like if they're running across each other, that's no big deal. But if they're actually like hand-to-hand combat, right? I would do thumbnails. I would do something like, you know, I would thumbnail out the sequence, right? If there's a fight sequence, right, and some guy is throwing a punch, right? This is what I would do. I would draw it out as a thumbnail. Like this, right? I'll draw it out. And then, once you draw out the thumbnail, right? Because I did it really quick, go to Storyboard Pro, and I'll do exactly what I just did here, right? And I'll do in separate layers, right? I'll draw those out, right? Okay, I'm thinking, okay, this punch, maybe, okay, first pose, first, second, maybe a third, he ducks, 4 poses, right? I'll thumbnail that real quick, and then I'll go ahead and do 4 drawings separately, and then I'm gonna go ahead and cut it out like this, and then Storyboard Pro, right? You can go ahead and position them exactly where you want it. So that's what I would do. That's how I would done it. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so let's see. Our next question we got here, coming from Jason. This is more related to 3D side a little bit, right?
Oh, okay.
Is it a big help when detailed 3D models are available from the art department?
Yes, it is. Okay, so here's the thing. Now, years ago, George Lucas wanted to eliminate storyboarding just from the process. Eliminate it, right? He wanted to go straight to 3D. We created a proprietary software at Lucasfilm, at ILM, and at Lucas Animation just for that thing, right? Because Lucas says, you know what? I just want to do 3D. Right? Do the 3D previs, right? Well, it does help. But in the beginning, no matter how you do it, right, you're going to need storyboard artists. Because if we had to sit there and wait until the modelers built the models for us, right, to start, doing our previs or anything to set up the shots, right, it's going to be a long time. And in TV and film, time is money. So we're always going to have jobs, all right? Now, 3D models, yes, it does help out once you start getting it, right? Because when you start getting a 3D background, and 3D models, right? Then yes, you can actually see a better positioning where how you're going to draw your characters. Like in Storyboard Pro, you saw it in my in this. Let me see, in this, right? These are just characters, right? Drawn into this with these OBJ models, that very low res models that we stick in, that we got from the modelers, and we start adding our characters in, right? Yes, it does help, but from the beginning, right? From the beginning, it's going to be this. It's going to be all this, guys. And we're going to draw this, right? You see how close it is compared to this. It's very close. So yes, it does help, but worse. Oh, Chad, I gotta tell him this. Now, if you're in the starting stage of this, sometimes we define where the origin of the modelers modeling ships and stuff and walls and backgrounds from our boards. So we have a lot of control as a storyboard artist. Yeah.
Yeah. And even nowadays with like Blender and stuff like that, right?
Oh yeah. Grease
And the
pencil.
grease pencil, you can get a model in the background.
That's
have
right.
a model there like this, and now how you're boarding it is going to be, you don't have to worry about trying to draw out what your background is. You plop the model in there for the background, and now you can just worry about the acting and the posing and having them move through the space there, which helps you be even more efficient than, you know, having to draw or redraw all of your backgrounds or whatever where you need to change. Yeah. All right. So the next question we got is from Julian. Hey, Julian. So you're basically, you know, when you rough out the sequence, right? So you rough out your sequence just to plan and see if it works before getting ahead and creating the more complex and clean boards. 100%.
100%. Yeah.
100%. This goes back to that thing is you don't want to go and throw in all this detail and then your director comes in and goes, you know what? I want a different camera angle, right? And you just thrown all that detail in there, especially a lot of it that's not going to actually do anything for your story. And now you have to redo it, right? But if you had planned it out first, did it rough like what we have here, submitted that, they're going to get the same information. But when they come back and go, I want a different angle, now you only took a couple of minutes, and it's a lot easier to let that go than the nice, super detailed, illustrative
Yeah, let me give Julian. Julian, hey, do I know this guy?
You do. He was part of our program at one point.
Julian, yes, I recognize him. Yeah. Well, yeah, Julian. So, give me an example, right? In a tight schedule, right? Especially, say Star Wars, like Bad Batch, Star Wars Rebels, and Star Wars Clone Wars, right? It's a tight schedule. Okay, so you have to be a pretty good artist, right? You have to be a pretty good artist yourself, right? You have three weeks, maybe 4 weeks tops, right? To do like maybe I think they're allowed maybe 3 roughs, 3 versions of rough. That's maybe at the most. Get approval, boom, you go right to cleanup, right? And those 3 weeks now, that's from rough version 1, 2, 3, cleanup. 3 weeks, boom, goes to editing, right? So think about it. A 22-minute episode, half an hour episode, 22 minutes, 8 minutes for commercials, right? And usually we draw more than 22 minutes, right? It's 30 pages, 1 minute per page. Action sequences, it could go between like a couple hundred panels to 500 panels, right? It was a solid action page. Acting, a little bit less, right? But it's a lot of drawings. It is. That's why it's pays to be efficient and keep it rough. That's what you got to do. You start doing all these details, right? It's going to get thrown out almost. I could guarantee like 95%. You're not going to, it's hard to get a first approval on version 1. I have maybe seen it once or twice. Maybe. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So I have actually the next 2 questions I'm going to ask. I'm going to bring up here. I'm going to kind of bundle together because I think that they both will end up being similar to each other. So the first one is from Tyler Goldie, and he's or Goldie, sorry, Tyler, asking how long should your sequence be? Right. So that's the first one. And I know in this case, when we're talking about it, it's going to be dependent on what your story is, especially, you're dealing with studio, what they want versus what your stuff. But a portfolio is going to be a little bit different than that. The other question, which is related to this, is also from Matthew List of, do you have guidelines for making storyboard portfolio work or submitting to studios? And I think both of these go hand in hand, because when we're talking about length, like in this case, we're talking about efficiency in storytelling. I think we need to focus it more here on the portfolio side of it. When we're thinking about that, what kind of length should these things be? How should we be thinking about how far do we need to go to draw, right? So that way we have an effective portfolio piece.
Okay, so let's answer the first one first, the sequence, right? It's all based off the story and the timing of the action that you just created and the acting, right? And there's acting, right? There's dialogue, right? So you got to think about that, right? So you're for acting, you're at the mercy of dialogue, right? You got to time it to the dialogue. Of course, when there's pauses in between dialogue, there's going to be certain acting, pantomime acting with character, making facial expressions or hand movement, whatever. You have to become that actor, right? So that's based off timing. Now, action, right, happens fast, right? Things move fast, and you have to understand certain actions, certain references that you're going to use for certain movement, right? Like for I'll give you an example with this one right here with the punching, right? I always tell my mentees, I always tell my the people who worked under me, right? When it comes to action, right? A punch, right? A punch, when you time on Storyboard Pro, a punch is as fast as 1 frame to 2 frames. That's it, right? I see too many people at like 10 frames to their animatic, and it doesn't work, right? So you gotta know about sequences like that. Always good to go reference it, right? But of course, you get Warner Brothers cartoons, everything's hyper fast, boom, 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 right? Now that's the sequencing. Now for portfolio, right? Submitting portfolio, right? I say you should have at least a good 3-piece of work, right? Action, acting, and something in between, all right? I would say that, right? And you have to make sure, okay, here, this is what I like to see. I want to see some rough boards, right? I want to see some rough boards. I want to see some tighter cleanups, because I want to see how well you draw too, right? And then these days, right, we like to see an animatic that comes with it. It was on your website, on your reel, whatever, right? So I can see the flow of your characters and characters moving around, right? And see how well you are with acting. But then, of course, if you're starting out, right? I'll just say it out. For entry level interns, I wouldn't worry too much about the animatic, but for a little bit more seasoned people, I want to see it. But only because timing is a very hard thing to learn, right? If your timing is all wrong in your animatic, it might, mess up your chance, because, it's like, why you put the animatic in there if you don't know timing, right? So it's just good enough to say for entry level interns to just do some rough boards, some tighter boards, show us your skills of storytelling, right? But of course, it does help you if you do an animatic and you time it just right. I know it's hard. I know you're saying, why is Steve saying don't do it, but then do it, right? There's a positive and negative, right? And it's just the way it is. It's just the way it is.
You're absolutely right. The animatics are a double-edged sword.
Yes.
Because if your animatics are great, it's going to amplify the storytelling that you've got. But if they're not there, you actually can risk the storytelling that you intend to have not come through if the animatic is not done correct. right? So to that end, going back though, a little bit more into the when we're talking about efficiency and what the length is of these portfolio pieces should be, don't go too crazy with these portfolio pieces, right? They shouldn't be like 5-10 minute epics, right?
Oh, yes.
Keep
Yes.
your stories simple, right? Make simple ideas with a beginning, a middle, and an end, and then work from there. Maybe they're a minute or a 2 minute thing, right? Oftentimes the complexity of the storytelling will come from that just initial simple idea, right? If you go in trying to make something complex, it ends up becoming confusing. But if you make something simple, it ultimately, when you start adding your characters in or adding your moments in, following that simple approach, and you end up with a much more effective piece, and something that you can put down a lot faster and quicker and showcase your storytelling skills.
Exactly.
All right. So the next question that I got up here, going into our back into our thumbnail side here, is from Ingrid, asking, thumbnails should focus on characters and action, right? If so, how do you deal with adding layout?
Thumbnails should focus on characters and action. If so, then how do you deal with adding layouts?
I
You mean like the
kind of
background,
think,
right? The layout, the
yeah,
background, or
yeah, I kind of think this actually also goes into another question too that I'm going to again blend with this, from Chloe, who is asking about faster composition choices, because I think layout deals with composition a lot. And so, like, how you deal with it with the layout. So I think these two might be a related type of question. What do you think, Steve?
all right. So let's talk about this then. All right. So if you're doing your own story, right? If you're going to do your own boards based on your own story, you know exactly what you're going to do, right? You know exactly where your character's at, where your character's going to be. Is it going to be night or day, building, forest, right? Park, jungle, whatever, right? You would know that if it's your own story. Now, based off a script, right? Um, it's like this, right? So back to this drawing here, right? So when I read the script for this, right? The script says Star Destroyer comes in from space, establishing shot, right? Cut to the two our heroes, slowly going into the ship from the bottom, right? It'll say that, and then as they go get inside, right? They're going to be acting inside the ship, whatever. They're going to be talking their stuff, and then they'll say, once Ezra walks out, cut to the ship locking into the this part right here, locking into the other ship. Right now, in a TV show, you'll be getting model sheets, right? Interior, ships, buildings, planets. You're going to get all of it. If you come onto my team on a certain episode, right, I'm going to have all that ready, right? When the day that I hire you to work for me, I'm going to have model sheets for you, right? So you're going to be ready. So it's up to you as a board artist and how to frame it, right? You're going to do an upshot, downshot, close up, whatever. I hire you. I believed in your portfolio, right? So now you're going to show it to me, right? Show me that you got the skills to be a board artist, right? So don't worry about the backgrounds or whatever, right? When you do thumbnails, right? That's what I do, right? I already have the model sheets. I read the script, and I'm just going to slowly draw out the things I've seen on the model sheet they're giving to me. There's going to be times where, wait a minute, the ship goes up to the bottom of the Star Destroyer. Do we have a model sheet of the opening? And sometimes they'll say, yes, we do. Here it is, right? And if they don't, I say, okay, just draw it. Just draw an opening there, and we'll add the model later. It happens all the time. We do it all the time. So
Yeah, just throw down
yeah.
I think that's good, because and even going back into the other one with the composition from Chloe, it's the same kind of thing, right? Because we're thinking about where people are placed and how they're going to act through the sequence. Sometimes
Right.
in the studio environment, they may not have the backgrounds ready yet, especially in probably earlier seasons where they're still trying to figure it out and like sitcom-y stuff, right? So they could literally just say, just write BG in the background, but you're still thinking about the space, still thinking about that. I've seen a lot of storyboards where they have just thrown down BG so that it's understanding that there's a background there, but you're not going to go out and draw the entire background because that's not an efficient use of your time.
Exactly.
Your efficient use of time is the composition and the main story points built within there. And then the background will, once you get the background, you'll make your tweaks to kind of massage it into what it's actually going to be. All right, so let's keep on going here into our questions. We have enough time. We still have about enough time for a few more questions here. Let's see, what do we got? So we've been talking about a lot of this in TV, right? And Josh Rob _art is asking, would you say that the level of detail that we've been doing described here would be the same as what is expected in feature animation?
Ooh. Okay, when you say that level of detail described here would be the same as what's expected in feature animation, are we talking about live action, feature animation? Okay, I'll give you both of them. All right, so feature animation. Yes. When you're starting out, the thumbnails again, right? You're given a script, thumbnails, right? So you can get an idea of what you're going to be doing for your very first rough, version 1. Right? And you're going to rough it out, right? And well, I do have to say this though. Disney, Pixar, right? DreamWorks, right? They do a lot of those feature animation. Now, it's okay to do roughs, yes, like what I just showed you. But knowing them, knowing the people I know from feature, they want you to draw a little bit more. Just a little bit more. I know how they think, right? Draw a little bit more, but not too much more, right? Just do a little bit more. That's it, right? Facial, maybe add a little clothing to it, but still keep it light, right? Live action, really rough. Right away, really rough. Break it down rough, right? You want to show the director, what he wants. What the director wants is composition, staging, character position, right? They want to see that, okay? So I worked on a couple live action features, and that's what they told me, right? So I did that. But then later on, right, once I showed it to them, they said, "Oh, Steve, can you tighten it up for me?" And I do. I will tighten it up for them. But the other feature I worked on, they didn't care. He just wanted to make sure that I gave him the camera, the character position, the action, whatever, right, staging. And then he used my work as reference for live action. But feature animation, like I said,
the live action side of thing is absolutely 100% that. They don't care about your acting. They don't care about a lot of the things that you might have to worry about in animation, and the reason for that is because there's the live action production is of course handled differently. That's where most of my actual experience comes from, is in live action. And you give your storyboards, they give it to a cinematographer. The cinematographer is then going to look at what the actual space they have is, do their thing. And then from there, the actors are going to come in, have their interpretation of how these characters are supposed to be. And so when you get to the end result, it may not even be exactly what you have. It's definitely not a 1-to-1 ratio. Animation very much so is going to be a 1-to-1 ratio on a lot of it. What you see in the final product is staged that way in the storyboards, right? And then cleaned up through everything. In terms of feature, I also would like to say that while they may ask for that more, what they're asking for in that more is they want to see more with you really pushing the story with the acting and the character work and the camera work and all of that, right? But the drawings themselves, a lot of the times that I've seen, can actually be a little bit looser than what you see in TV, because you don't have to worry about on model, right? Especially in 2D animation, you're not trying to be on model. As long as it looks like Bob from The Incredibles, right? But the acting is there and everything is that. It's fine because it's going to go to somebody else who's going to be able, who's going to have the time to really make sure it gets to what it is, even for the 2D stuff that we see nowadays.
You got that right. Another question?
Yeah, next question we have, as we try to get through these, we have a few more minutes still. Is from John Nano, one of our current mentees. How would you handle a moving perspective scene in Storyboard Pro with just 2D, not using 3D objects?
Really? All right. All right. Well, it's funny because I just did a demo for one of my mentees just a couple weeks ago. So, okay, the question is, how would you handle a moving perspective scene in Storyboard Pro with 2D scene without using 3D objects? Okay, so, okay, let me show you what I just did here. Okay, boom. All right. All right. So I had to. I was showing a mentee from Mod 5 on how to do the sequence here. Right. Exactly what I showed you guys when I was doing my demo. Now let me show you this part with a moving foreground. Right. So we have a wall here. What I did was, right, now this layer here is on this tool in Storyboard Pro. If you know Storyboard Pro, this is like an animation tool, right? Once you select this on this level, this layer, right, it gives you this selection here. Now, if you don't know Storyboard Pro, then this is probably all gibberish to you. But if you do, you kind of have some idea of it, right? You'll have some understanding. This button is the animation tool here, animation keyframing, right? And what I did was, right, I animate this foreground, right, to come toward me, right? Now, everything in front of you is going to move faster. Everything in the midground is going to move slower. Everything in the background is probably just a slow zoom, right? So you notice what I did here, right? And the character walks in. So yeah, you know what? I have to tell you, you got to plan it out, right? Of course, when I did this demo, right, I based it off the mentee's. She showed me some roughs or something, right? And she was having problems. Said, Steve, how can I make? I want to do zoom in through the doors, right? But she said, I don't know how to do it, right? And she showed it to me, and all she showed me was these two flat drawings, right? And zoomed in through the door, and you know, there's no depth to it, right? If you're going to do something like this, that's where Storyboard Pro comes in, right? So I told her, I said, well, you're just doing a flat drawing and you're zooming in, right? It doesn't look right. So and you're using Storyboard Pro? Okay, then do this. And so I showed her during my session, one-on-one session. I gave her, so I showed what I did. And when I showed her this, it blew her mind away because she didn't know that you could do something like this, right? Of course, if you're a board artist like me and Chad, we've been doing this for a while, right? You understand depth, right? You would know these things, and then you, as a creative person, hopefully you watch movies, feature film, cartoons, whatever. You see what they do when they do like camera moves and stuff, right? And this is what Storyboard Pro comes in. But then, of course, like something like this, right? What I did, when I showed this other mentee, said, Steve, how can I make this more dynamic, right? I want to have this guy ride through in this motorcycle and slice this big ass stone arch and then going to come crumbling down. What he did a side shot of that flying, a side shot right to left and slicing it, right? I said, well, that's pretty boring. Why do you do this then, right? So I showed him this, right? Have the camera swing around, slice, and move on, right? There you go. So there you have it.
Yep.
Simple
and
stuff.
Somebody, for the other side of it too, when we're talking about the shift in perspective, somebody else also in our chat kind of brought this up, and I'm going to bring this to show it. Learn the banana pan. That is how everything manipulates and goes through in perspective, because the banana pans is what's going to allow you to be able to do that. If you're just moving left to right with the characters and stuff like that, your perspective, because the camera is going to be in a stationary position. It's not actually moving back and forth on a swivel. The perspective's essentially going to stay the same. But where that change in perspective occurs is when the camera itself has to swivel back and forth or move specifically, right? It's not stationary and you're just trucking left or right or moving in and out. And so the banana pan, which is what he's about to show you right now, is exactly what you would do to create the perspective points from that. And then from there, everything that Steve showed you earlier in the demo, exact same thing. And then you shift it along when you do your animating. You move the camera or you move that background along with it, and then that's going to shift the perspective. And this is the technique you would use. It basically is a way to create multiple perspectives. So that way, each time that it moves through, you're able to maintain what you need to.
Yeah, old banana pan. Yeah, we do this a lot in the business. Oh my God. Because it's a very effective tool to use, especially when this is a nice little action sequence that give us a little perspective, a little bit more dynamics to it, right? So it is really fun to do, right? So for certain shots, so there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It took me just a second to do this. Any other questions while I'm doing this?
There was one more question I wanted to hit here real quick, and then it'll be our last question for the day. Because this is a common question that I have seen as well. How do you handle color for your rough pass?
Color for rough pass, 90% of the time we don't do color. 97%. It's very rare that someone said, "Steve, can you color your boards?" I have not heard. I'm on 30-something years, maybe once when I was doing commercials. "Stevie, can you color your boards?" Right, commercials, right? That's the only time I did colors. But TV, feature, live action, video games, I have never used color for boards.
The only time outside of commercial work I have ever seen people use color is if there is a specific thing that's incredibly important that you are calling attention to. A red light that is supposed to be there. And they really want to emphasize it's a red light that is doing a specific thing. That one piece might be red. Or the Ninja Turtles, for example, right? You have 4 turtles that look alike in your boards. How do you do that? How do you differentiate them? Well, for their line work, you're not even going to fully color it. For their line work, one, you just might use an orange line, one, you might use a blue line, a purple line, and a red line. It's been used I've seen it in a lot of animatics for turtles, right? So that way you know who's Raph versus Dawn or whatever, right? Those are really the only times you're really going to use color.
Right. And then the other time, I just showed you this part, little gray tone for depth. Right. Sometimes sometimes when you have a lot of things going on, right, and there's a lot of perspective movement or something, and there's certain buildings overlapping each other, right? You might want to add a gray tone. That's probably the only thing I did beside black, right? I use a gray tone, right? So that's about it. Yeah, so what I did here, I just gray toned this action here, right? Just to add a little more depth to it, right? But other than that, right, we don't use colors. Really, rarely. What Chad said. Exactly what it would do, right? But most of the time we don't use colors. Yeah.
Absolutely. All righty. So to finish, to wrap this whole thing up here for everybody, what you guys have seen today is a snippet of what we do in our mentorship program. Every week in our mentorship program, we do live sessions with our mentors where we cover topics like this. And we go into even greater detail in a lot of the subjects that we do. That cover everything from career, technical, all of this stuff. And so for those of you guys who are interested in joining our mentorship program, you can go. We are open for our summer session, storyboardart.org/mentorship. And yeah, we are completely open now, accepting applicants for our summer 2024 program. It is a year-long program, so when you're in, you'll be rolling it through the whole year. And it's really, really fun. You're going to learn a lot, and you're going to, improve your craft greatly with awesome professionals like Steve here, or for those of you who were at our last session, Douglas Lovelace, who's one of our mentors. And
Excellent
it's
board artist, Douglas.
so those are our that's our fun times for that. So if you're interested, join the mentorship. But other than that, thank you very much, Steve, for this awesome presentation. We're really, really happy to have you on here. I am going to leave everybody here with one last video of our mentorship program, but thank you guys all for joining us today. And awesome
And I
stuff.
hope to see the potential board artists, potential young new board artists for our industry, right? Because they're always looking for, as a matter of fact, they're going to be looking for new entry-level beginner board artists. I just want to give you a little tip there. Hey guys, there you go. Just a little tip there.
Absolutely. All righty. Well, everybody have a good one and board on.
The mentorship experience has been the best learning experience that I've ever had about story.
It was a game changer.
It sort of felt like it's been an extension of my schooling experience. I think the consistency of work, the challenge of the assignments.
This entire system that you have going, it is so perfect for the time we are in, right evolution of the formula of online schooling.
That's awesome.